Hey family, happy Tuesday. In today's video, we are going to be talking about how to start an enrolled agent firm. So, if you are a tax professional or considering a transition in careers where you become a tax professional, you've read up a little bit about the EA designation, and you're interested in starting that firm, this video is for you. Because in this video, I'm starting at ground zero. We're going to talk about the prerequisites to starting an EA firm. All right. So, if you have no idea who I am, my name is Timalyn Bowens, and I'm America's favorite EA. As an enrolled agent, I'm licensed through the Internal Revenue Service to represent taxpayers in all 50 states. But in addition to that, I can represent taxpayers facing a U.S. tax problem from anywhere in the world. Okay? Now, I have an EA firm, which is Bowens Tax Solutions, and it is located in Louisville, Kentucky. And although we're based there, we're virtual. So I do literally have clients in countries clear across the world. And today, the reason I'm starting this series is because I'm often asked questions about how to get that firm started, what's required, what about insurance. So, again, I'm starting at ground zero, the prerequisites that you need to start your own EA firm. All right. So, as you're hopping on, if you would drop down in the comments, say hello, let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm going to make sure that I am live on LinkedIn. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to also check Facebook because my people on Facebook have been telling me that they're not getting the notifications, which is all right because they could just come over here to YouTube, right? So let me make sure I'm actually live and we will get right into this. So let's see. I know I'm good on YouTube. Pulling up LinkedIn now. LinkedIn has a little bit of a lag. So, oh, nope, I see myself. You guys can see my little bald head today. All right, so I'm going to mute that. So LinkedIn is good. Letitia, on LinkedIn, make sure that you have given StreamYard permission to share your comments. That way I can see them right here. Otherwise, as I'm talking, I'm going to have to keep turning this way. And I want to make sure that I don't miss anything that you're saying, all right? But Letitia's on LinkedIn. Thanks for hopping on there, joining. She's tuning in from Illinois, I believe the Chicago area. I was up there 2 weekends ago. We have Miss Dorothy on YouTube tuning in from Memphis, if I remember correctly. Tanika Mann is here from Stafford, Virginia. Thanks for tuning in. I don't think we got anybody on Facebook. I don't know what's going on over there. I think it's actually like disconnected. But that's neither here nor there. If they don't see it on Facebook, I hope that they hop on over here to YouTube because we got to get going, right? So, and we have Tanya Horton, which I can't remember where you're from, but I know we're connected, I think, on Instagram. Good morning to you. So, like I said, this is going to be, yeah, I don't know why I'm not live on Facebook, you guys. I'll have to apologize to them later, all right? So, with this, let's get to the prereqs because I do want to respect your time. I know a lot of you are still working. Some of you may be on a lunch break. And some of my people on the West Coast, it's super early in the morning, and I appreciate you wanting to be here with me right now. So, Tanya says, good morning from Alabama. I didn't realize that you're in Alabama. Cool. So, the very first thing that you need, which is going to seem like duh for some of you guys, and then a light bulb's going to go off for others of you. Number one, you need a P10. You need to prepare a tax identification number. Why? Because if you have an EA firm, there's kind of an assumption that you're an EA, right? If you're going to a CPA firm, you're assuming that the owner is a CPA. Now, you can have a firm that does tax representation work and not be an EA, but that wouldn't be considered an EA firm, right? So, again, ground floor, I'm going to assume you guys don't know any of this because there will be people that hop on later that don't. Your P10 is going to be your prepared tax identification number. This is something that is issued by the IRS, and it's what they use to track the activity that you have on different returns, on power of attorneys, or authorization forms such as the 8821. What I compare this P10 to is like your social security number for taxes, right? You can go back and check out your P10 and see all of the returns that were filed under you for the year. It's a really good tracking tool for the IRS, but like I said, you can go online and track your information as well. The second thing that I recommend for starting an enrolled agent firm, and remember, for me, these are the prerequisites. I think you should have all of these in place these first few you should have in place before you even open the door. All right, before you're even posting online. So one is the P10 because you cannot be paid to prepare anything on somebody's tax return, whether it's preparation or representation, until you have that P10. Number two, I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you have an LLC. Now, I'm not saying that because it has any significant tax perks. I'm not saying you need to have an LLC so you can elect to be an S corp. Hear me out when I say this. Yes, you can be a tax professional and work under somebody else without an LLC. However, if you are on your own, if you are contracting work and you are on your own, my recommendation with the prerequisites is that you have an LLC, at the minimum, a single member LLC. And like I said before, this isn't for any type of tax implications because if you're a US citizen, you are still going to file that Schedule C, right? This is more so to protect you legally. All right. And yes, I've had people ask me, well, can I just do a DBA? You can do a DBA so you have like a business name. And for example, I'm not working under Timalyn S. Bowens. I have a DBA of Bowens Tax Solutions. That's fine and dandy. But when it comes to the legal side of things and those implications, you want to have that single member LLC at minimum, again, to protect yourself and protect your firm and your firm's assets and have all of that separated legally from yourself. Okay. And then you have to be careful not to pierce the corporate veil. But I'm not going to talk about that in today's video. So one, we have the P10, two, the single member LLC, and then number three, it blows my mind when I see how many people do not have this in place. Before I get too far, hey Deja, tune in from Illinois, I do believe. Good to see you on here. Number three, you have to have insurance, okay? With the way that business is run now, especially within the tax industry, we have your traditional brick and mortar where people go into the office and have their taxes prepared. We have the traditional brick and mortar where people drop their tax returns off and maybe they just send their financial statements to their CPA or their EA and they prepare the taxes. If you have any type of location, you need to have general liability insurance. The purpose for this is going to protect the building, is going to protect the people on the premises. So let's say right now I have a building in Louisville, Kentucky, right? And if I'm renting out an office space, so not like a virtual mailbox, but I have an actual office in this building, I would want to check with the building to see if their general liability insurance is going to cover my clients and prospects when they come into the building. Because if not, I need to have some type of coverage in place. Because let's say that my office is down by the river here in Louisville. Let's say somebody's walking that slope because it's like you're walking down towards the river. Let's say somebody's walking down that sidewalk and they slip and fall in January, right? They could turn around and sue me and my business And that general liability insurance is going to be in place to protect me from things like that. Let's say that, and this actually did happen recently, there's water damage in the building where my office is. Well, with that, there was some damage that happened in the ceilings, and some ceilings fell in certain office spaces. If my things got damaged, I need to have general liability insurance in place to cover my equipment, to cover my desk, to cover those types of documents. Okay. So, again, if you are working from home, you have a virtual office, you may want to speak with your homeowner's insurance or your renter's insurance to make sure that if your office equipment were to get damaged, that it's covered, because that's going to be business equipment, not personal. So you would need some type of general liability there. The next thing that none of you should be operating without is errors and omission insurance. This is also named professional liability insurance. What this does, it protects you if there are any mistakes made on the return. Now, you can still get in trouble with the IRS if you were negligent and left things off, right? But if you've been following on this channel, you know that I had a run in with having to use my errors and omission insurance just this year. I had a mistake on a client's tax return that would have cost me over $15,000 out of pocket. But because I had errors and omission insurance, and thank God it was the first time I've ever had to make a claim, I was able to call them, say, hey, there was a number left off of this return. Actually, the number was there. A box wasn't checked, making it taxable. So that resulted in the client owing additional tax, and it also resulted in a penalty and interest. Now, the client gave us the information. What happened on our end is when my preparer went in and they did not check that box, the ball is on me, right? I'm the business owner. I missed that mistake that the box wasn't checked, and I had to own up to that with my client. So with my client, I said, hey, you gave us all the information. We dropped the ball on this, and that resulted in this additional tax being assessed. It also resulted in this penalty and this interest. Now, the tax is yours to pay because you would have had to pay that tax anyway because you had the income, but this penalty that you have and this additional interest that you have, that's a result of a mistake that we made. So we're going to take care of that. If I did not have errors and omission insurance, that would have all come out of pocket. But that professional liability insurance protects you in those instances so that you're covered. All right. Now, the next thing that we should all have, whether you are working virtually or whether you have a traditional office where everybody comes in, now you need to have cybersecurity insurance. Okay. Think about in the news when you see all of the different settlements that people are getting because different systems were hacked and their information was compromised. Well, now the standards have been raised for those of us in the tax world because think about it. The IRS wants most things submitted electronically. You're not supposed to, without exception, because there's an exception to all rules, you're not supposed to be paper filing tax returns, right? You're supposed to be e-filing those. The majority of you have some type of online CRM system. You have your email, you have some type of online client portal where you're storing your client's information. This puts you at a huge risk for being hacked because you have all of this confidential information and even past tax returns that may have social security numbers and that type of thing on it. So the reason you have to have cyber security insurance is to protect you just in case of the event that somebody were to hack your information and have access to everything. Now, I will tell you, I sat in a webinar with Brad Messner, I think it was last year in Orlando, Florida, and it about scared me poopless, right? Because I was looking at all of the things and the implications of not having proper cybersecurity and what happens if you do have to actually make a claim. And I would rather make an E&O claim again any day over having to make a cybersecurity claim, because there are a lot of different caveats and things where stuff isn't covered. So, with that being said, we have the P10 that you need, the LLC that I recommend, the insurance. Remember, we have those three different types of insurance. Part of what's going to protect you with your cybersecurity insurance is number 4, and that is a WISP. You need to have a written information security plan. What this is, and now it's a requirement that the IRS has. So if you are a enrolled agent firm owner, if you are a CPA firm owner, if you have a tax office, period, please listen to this and take heed. You're supposed to have the written information security plan, which outlines the protocol for your office in the event that they are hacked. All right. It outlines the protocol for how you handle your client's sensitive information. This information is going to be stuff that people can use to find them. So if you have your client's name, address, phone number, name, address, name, social, that type of information, you are responsible for protecting that. And the IRS wants you to have this WISP on file in your office so that you have something that you can go right to and put into action if this information were to get compromised. Now, there are definitely penalties for not having this in place. Is the IRS enforcing this yet? Not yet. Let me go back. Let me go back. Are they checking everybody's WISP right now? No, they are not doing that. But if you get caught without one, there are implications that you can face. So why not stay ahead of the curve? Don't be like, oh, that'll never happen to me. I won't get hacked. Go ahead and create that WISP, have it on file in your office. I'm not going to ask you who has one, because if you are operating as a firm owner, you should already have that in place. Even if you are, again, just an uncredentialed tax professional at this time, you should have one. So you most definitely need to have one before you start your enrolled agent firm. Okay. And if you are looking for a template, AICPA has one out there for free that you can check out. The IRS and the publication, I can't remember what number it is right now. They have one that you can check out that you can fill out for your information. But it's also good to check out with whoever your cybersecurity insurance provider is, because there are going to be certain things that they are going to want in there additionally to make sure that you're covered if you have to make a claim. All right. So that was number 4, the WISP. Now, before I get going any further, again, I apologize if you typically follow me on Facebook and you're having to catch the replay. I'm not sure why that disconnected this morning, but let me check the comments as well. Karina is in the building from Florida. Good morning to you, Karina. I don't think I have anybody else on LinkedIn. All right. So I got a few more people on YouTube as well. Make sure as you're hopping on YouTube, as you're hopping on LinkedIn, drop in the comments and say what's up. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If you guys have any questions, you guys know how I operate. Go ahead, drop those questions down in the comments, and I'm going to keep going. All right. Because, like I said, I want to respect your time. I do have 6 more things that are going to be prerequisites to getting your CP. Oh, Lord, not your CPA firm. I misspoke. They're going to be prerequisites to getting your EA firm started. Okay. So we have Jean over on LinkedIn that says, hello. Thanks for hopping on, Jean. So the next thing that you're going to need, and people, oh, Jean's tuning in from Palm Springs, Florida. Awesome. So the next 2 things are debatable, because people say, well, hey, if I want to do tax representation and not tax preparation, I don't need these 2 things. For me, I still think that you do. Okay. Because I don't think it's wise to go from no tax background, no experience preparing a tax return, and jump straight to representation. Is it doable? Yes. However, by doing tax returns and having that understanding, you know how the tax return works, and you can better represent somebody with what's going on with their tax return in negotiation, right? Does that make sense? Because if we have an attorney who is, let's say, a contract attorney. They're not a criminal attorney. Yes, they have the right to represent somebody in a criminal case, but you wouldn't want them to represent you in a criminal case because they don't have that experience and background. So, same concept over here with taxes. Representation, yes, is what people are attracted to because you can make more money doing that. However, in my humble opinion, I think that you still need the experience of tax preparation, even if that's not what you do full time. Okay. So, number 5, you need to have an EFIN. So, E-FIN. This is your electric file identification number. Now, when you have a P10, what I said first, the preparer tax identification number, you as the professional own that, right? That is going to be used to track the returns that you have had a hand in working on. When we look at the EFIN, the firm owns the EFIN because that electric file identification number is going to be put on the different returns that your firm is going to be filing. So let me give you an example. In my firm now, I am still hands-on and review every tax return that goes through here. So the amount of returns connected to my P10 should connect to the amount of returns connected to my EFIN. However, when you are looking at a bigger firm or where there are partners and for some managers, different signers on returns, the person who is signing the return is whose P10 is going to be found on the return. But all of the returns that are going through that firm are going to have the same EFIN number. So if you plan on bringing in other people, they're going to be using your EFIN with your firm. All right, does that make sense? Now, there are situations where I know with like service bureaus, and as I mentioned, bigger firms, if this isn't just your EA firm, where you may be working underneath a different EFIN and you don't have to go apply for it on your own. But if you are the firm owner, you want to make sure that your firm does have its own EFIN. Okay. Next is the ERO. So the ERO number, this is the electronic return originator. This is different from the EFIN because this number is going to actually allow you to electronically submit the tax return. All right. So a completely different number. In my firm, I have the P10 because I'm the preparer. Anybody working on a tax return that's being done for pay should have a P10. So keep that in mind in your office as well. Even if they are not the signer, they should have a P10. Next, with the EFIN, I am the one, my firm, Bowens Tax Solutions, owns the EFIN, and that number is going on the tax returns because we are the ones filing. Now, the ERO number means we're the one that's actually submitting the return. Now, for some of you, again, that may be connected to a service bureau, if you are filing that way, your ERO would not be on there because it's going to be the service bureau you're connected to. Now, with that being said, the ERO is the authorized e-file provider who originates the electronic submission of the return. So that's why, think of it this way. If you prepare taxes, and if you don't yet, go check out this form. But on Form 8879, if you look at the bottom at who needs to sign that, we're not looking at the tax professional per se, unless you are the ERO and the tax professional preparing it. We're looking for the ERO. So the ERO is the person who has to have that 8879 on file to prove to the IRS that they had authorization to electronically submit the return. All right. And for those of you that aren't familiar yet, that's what the 8879 is. It is what we have to have our client sign that gives us permission to electronically file their tax returns. The next thing that you need to have in place in the beginning stages, I say before you actually start the firm, you need to have a Tax Pro account. Now, with the Tax Pro account, they've connected a lot of it. I think you would still need to have a P10 account to check that activity. But with the Tax Pro account, you can monitor the activity of your P10. Once you get your CAF number connected, you can monitor that activity as well. With the Tax Pro account, you can see how many 2848s are connected to you. And if you're new to this and you don't know what a 2848 is, that is going to be the tax power of attorney. You can also see how many 8821s are connected to you, which is going to be that authorization for you to be the third party receiving information. So the 8821 is not going to give you as much authority to set up an arrangement or be a substitute for the taxpayer on their behalf, but it does authorize you to have access to their transcripts and different things like that. Now, with the Tax Pro account, you can upload signed 2848s and signed 8821s versus faxing them over to the CAF unit. You can also request authorization. So this is pretty cool and gets processed almost immediately. If you have a client that or prospect that's turned into a client and they have their own IRS account with your Tax Pro account, you can fill in information that would be on the 2848 and request authorization. The IRS then takes that request and sends it to that taxpayer, and they can authorize your power of attorney right there via the Tax Pro account. Now, that is going to be a little bit limited as far as what you can access doing it that way versus just uploading the form or versus faxing it. But if you need immediate access, that is available when you have a Tax Pro account. Another thing, and this is probably my favorite feature, once you connect your CAF number, you can revoke powers of attorney. So typically, and I know this is debatable for some people, when you have power of attorney and you've checked the box so that you receive that taxpayers notifications and mail or notices and letters mail, you kind of have a responsibility when you're receiving those. Let's say that a client or past client is in, they may potentially be levied, right? And you're no longer working together. However, because you have that 2848 on file, the CAF unit is going to make sure that you get a copy of that notice to levy. If you don't let the client know that they are potentially about to be levied and you had that information ahead of time, you could potentially be held liable. Not, they still have to pay the tax, but they could come back to you and potentially sue you because you didn't let them know. So that's a situation where you would want to make sure as soon as your engagement is done, you are revoking the power of attorney. So you are not responsible for anything that happens on that account. Because remember, when you have power of attorney, you are working as a substitute. So the IRS is viewing you as the person in the taxpayer's stead. Now, I said it's debatable because there are some people who will keep the power of attorney on file because they use this as an opportunity to upsell. So, what do I mean by that? If my engagement has ended with the client, but I still have the 2848 on file and I receive their notice of intent to levy, that puts me in a position to reach out to them and say, hey, do you need further representation work? Because the IRS intends to levy your accounts or your paycheck within the next 30 days. For me and the size that I am right now, I don't have somebody monitoring the accounts of people who have not paid us for that service. So for me, I kind of lean to the other side of, okay, I'm going to revoke this power of attorney as soon as we're done because I don't want anything to slip in under the radar. Okay. And you can easily revoke that power of attorney right there in the Tax Pro account, but with a click of a button. Traditionally, you would have to write revoke or withdraw on top of the 2848 and fax that back. And then you have to wait for it to be processed. It's just so much quicker to do it with the Tax Pro account. Now, I have 3 more things that I'm going to share. This is actually going quicker than I thought because sometimes I have 2 bullet points and we're on here for an hour. Does anybody have any questions? Let me see. I think we are good on LinkedIn. It's not letting me see the number of people on LinkedIn. So if you are still over there, just drop in and say what's up, just so I know you guys are there, because usually I can see that. And then on YouTube, you all, thanks for hanging in with me. And if you're watching this later and you're usually on Facebook, my apologies. Maybe I'll post the replay over there. So we talked about connecting the CAF number to the tax pro account. So that is the next thing, in my humble opinion, that I say that you are going to need when you start your enrolled agent firm. So your CAF number is going to be a 9-digit number. And the way you get this is by requesting third-party authorization to somebody's account. So even if you aren't an EA yet, if you're watching this video, you're studying for the exam and you're going to pass soon, right? But if you're not an EA yet, you can still get a CAF number. And the way you do this, because remember, you can't request power of attorney unless it's a family member, right, or special circumstance without being an EA, CPA, or tax attorney. You can, however, request that third party access with the 8821. So, what you would do when filling out the 8821, you would leave the CAF area blank and let them know you are applying for one when you were uploading that, when you're faxing it, if you were on the phone. The IRS will then submit that to the CAF unit, which is the centralized authorization file, and they will make sure that you get a CAF number. Now, the reason this is important is because the centralized authorization file is where they will check all powers of attorney and third party access. This is important because this ensures that when your client's account is pulled up later, the CAF unit will make sure that your power of attorney is also shown there so that any notices that are sent out, if you've checked the box to receive notices, you will get a copy of that notice as well. If the IRS is going to be making phone calls, which they shouldn't right now because they're understaffed, but in the event that they do, that power of attorney will pop up and they will call you, not the client. Pro tip here, if your client does receive a call from the IRS and it's somebody that you have power of attorney for, you need to train the client to say, my tax professional has power of attorney, you have to call them. And in the event that they do call your client, you need to make sure that your client knows that they need to notify you immediately that they received a call from the IRS. So in my situation for my clients, they know that if they get a call from the IRS, they are to say, Timalyn Bowens has power of attorney on my account. You need to call her. They call me, and then I get on top of it. Because if my 2848 is processed, they have absolutely no business calling my client directly. They are supposed to call me and address all questions to me. That is part of the power of you being the power of attorney and standing there in the gap for your client. All right. So 9 and 10. Number 9, you need to have a mission and vision. Yes. A lot of you are probably anticipating me talking about a business plan. I'm not getting into a business plan today because sometimes we get too caught up in the things like a business plan and then we don't actually implement them. But with the mission and vision, you need to know with your enrolled agent firm who you want to serve, right? Saying I want to help everybody is too broad. You will burn yourself out. And then later you don't have anybody to market to. So you need to know who you want to serve, how you want to serve them, and the impact you want to have. So, for example, in my firm, I don't do any bookkeeping, not taking new tax prep clients. I'll do tax preparation for the people that we're doing representation for. And I will do the individuals that have been in here with me for the long haul, but I'm not taking new business clients, right? This was actually my last year doing business tax returns. So, with that, I know that in Bowens Tax Solutions, we are not going to be a firm focused on tax preparation. The mission that we have is to help first generation business owners who owe the IRS $100,000 or more fix that tax problem so they can focus on and grow their business. I know exactly who I want to help. I know exactly how I'm going to help them with the representation work, and then I'm going to connect them with somebody to make sure that they stay compliant. With that, because a lot of you guys are scared to niche down, first generation business owners, that is going to lessen the pot, right? Who owe $100,000 or more. That narrows it down even more. But do you see how even though I've niched down, I understand who my client avatar is, I can still help all business owners? but I still have it very clear up here who I'm helping and what services I'm offering to do that. So you want to make sure that you are very clear with who you want to serve, how you want to serve them, and then the impact that you want to have, right? So for me, when I'm planning my year, yes, there's an income number connected to it, but what I focus on is the impact that I want to have in the year. How many business owners do I want to help? How many different connections do I want to make this year, right? Intentional connections on the phone. How many enrolled agents do I want to help? Which, if you didn't see my post yesterday, we're in the second half of 2024. One of the impact goals that I have, July through December of this year, I want to help 105 enrolled agents or aspiring enrolled agents start their enrolled agent firm. That's part of why we're here in this series, because that's an impact that I want to have. I may be able to help those people through this series. I may be able to help them with the ebook, in a group, in paid mentorship. I don't know what that will look like for each person, but what I do know is I'm helping a minimum of 105 people to start their EA firm. All right. And when you focus on that impact and the service, how you're going to serve those people, I promise you that the money will come. There is a number that's going to be attached to that. But what happens is we focus on the number, and don't get me wrong, because we all got to eat, right? We all got to live. We got to make money. I'm not saying go out here and do a lot of volunteer work and not charge for your services. That's not what I'm saying. But when you focus on the service and the impact that you're going to make in the different lives of the taxpayers you're working with, then that is when the passion inside of you comes up. What you do doesn't feel like work anymore, and there is a dollar amount connected to that as well. So, oh my goodness. So I have 11 folks over here on LinkedIn. They are quiet as a mouse. So let me see. I have somebody who is an accounting student at the University of Minnesota. Is it Mustafa? I don't want to mispronounce your name. Very short story. Born late 80s with a name like Timalyn. I've been called Timberland, like the brand, Timbaland, the producer. So I want to make sure that I pronounce other people's names correctly. So Mustafa, thank you for joining. The other 8 folks, 9 folks, 11 folks on LinkedIn, thanks for joining. Drop down in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from. So we have the mission and vision. Last but not least, my recommendation is you need to have a mentor and a community to be able to do this well, right? When I first started, I didn't know other enrolled agents at all. However, I did have a network of other tax professionals and other accounting professionals because of the school I graduated from, Bellarmine. They have a wonderful accounting program. So I did know other people who were firm owners. They were CPA firm owners, right? But I was able to have and build community with them to help me keep myself accountable to reach the goals that I wanted to reach within my business, right? I was able to build community with them to kind of see, like, where should I be right about now? What should I do with these workflow processes? How are you all handling clients virtually? Because that's one thing about my firm. I've always been virtual. Now, there are people that I've met with in person, but for the most part, I've always been virtual. So when COVID came, I wasn't affected in a negative way because my clients already knew how to meet virtually. And then I was onboarding other people's clients because they didn't have the capacity to be able to take clients on virtually. Right. But I would not have had those things in place already if I did not have community with other tax professionals. So, right here, some of you all call me your mentor on LinkedIn, Facebook, on YouTube. I do have a paid mentorship community, but right now, what I'm going to invite you to is not a paid mentorship. It is actually a community that I've started. And you can get there by going to americasfavoriteea.com, and you got to listen because I'm not typing it out. It actually may be in the description though. You go to americasfavoriteea.com. There is a group, How to Start an Enrolled Agent Firm. And I launched it a few months ago, and it's been a little bit stagnant because I said I want to make sure that my energy level is right and I don't burn out, because I want to actually, again, be able to help people start their enrolled agent firm. If you are not a member of that group yet, go ahead, look in the description of this video, click the link, and you have to request to join. Once you are in there, you will find other tax professionals, aspiring enrolled agents, people that are already enrolled agents who are focused on growing their EA firm, but also getting the basics down to start an enrolled agent firm, to make sure that it is something that is successful, planned out, because you can plan your income and actually hit those goals. And that is what it's going to be all about. We're focusing on the 105. All right. So if you have a tax professional friend who is also interested in starting an EA firm, do me a favor, share this video with them, let them know about the community as well. And don't forget, this is only part one of a series. Next week, I'm going to be talking about how to start an enrolled agent firm, but how to actually get your clients. All right. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I'm going to love you and leave you. Right. Don't forget, if you're not subscribed already, go ahead, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're following me on LinkedIn if that's where you're watching from. I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, and I will see you in the group.